Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to meet you here again. I've been watching conference, listening to the conference, but great to be part of it now. My name is Viad Dadzimbaya. I'm a security and digital diplomacy fellow at the Fletcher School of Blind Diplomacy back in Boston. But more than that, a friend of University of Georgia. University of Georgia is a place I admire because it's full of people, full of ideas that I admire. And more than that, those ideas are in line with the universal ideas, with the Euro-Atlantic ideas, and with the ideas why we're speaking here today about resilience, security, or any other notions of peace and security. I'll try to facilitate this discussion, which is hybrid. We are two people here, but we're joined by several people all the way from California to Berlin and to Romania, and this is amazing. We're going to spend some 65 to 75 people total, and we have a quite a great diversity here, from cognitive sciences, from psychology to the European institutions to security and defense, it is great to include and conclude today with what we call societal aspect of resilience. And we'll try to define on our end the term, notion, and depth of resilience, and try to unpack how can we make it work. What are some of the things that do not work? What are some of the things that work better in one place than another? So with that, I'm joined by a distinguished group of people. But first is Dr. Siegfried Preiser, if I pronounced it well. He's rector of the University Berlin School of Psychology, and he's got a great presentation. So we agreed to do a brief presentation, 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll try to answer some of the remaining questions in a blitz fashion. We'd love to start with Dr. Preiser. Please go on, and we'd love to follow up on that.
Yeah, hello, thank you very much. I hope the presentation will start now. There were some difficulties. I will try it. Can you see it? It is on the screen.
Yeah, it's quite an option too. You could increase the visibility of it too, whatever is better for you.
If not, I will begin, and we will try. If you could see my presentation visually.
Sure.
I have some remarks on psychological contributions to societal cohesion. Cohesion is a basic requirement for positive development and resilience of societies. It requires for all members of a community, an organization, a society, or a state to sense commonalities and to see themselves as part of this community. What do governments and administrations need to consider in order to promote this societal cohesion? Governments feel mainly responsible for providing basic economic needs and as well as national security. This is important and indispensable. But societal cohesion needs more than just providing the basic necessities. Cultural and psychological needs are equally important. Cross-culturally, there are 3 particularly important psychological needs which should be effective in all people and civilizations. A government that is able to follow those psychological needs appropriately provides the best preconditions for societal cohesion. What are these needs or motives? First, relatedness. Second, autonomy. And third, competence, the need for competence. Some remarks to psychological need for relatedness. The need for relatedness originally concerns the search for attachment, safety, and comfort inside the family and partnership, furthermore in relationships in general. Organizations and states can utilize the positive feeling of affiliation to promote bonding, to accompany an institution or the state itself. These requirements can be derived from well-functioning families. Functioning families provide their children and all members with positive feelings of belonging, satisfying relationship without fear, faith in their parents' good intentions, reliability and predictability, efficient actionability, the families to solve problems and to eradicate difficulties. Transferred over states can achieve bonding of their citizens, raising awareness of belonging and participation. All citizens should be able to participate in public life equally. Satisfying contacts free from fear means, for example, freedom of speech without repressions, access to information, freedom of press, internet access. Faith or truth in the state's good intentions, a government for the people, not for the benefit of the politicians. Reliability and predictability, for example, through a transparent legal system, equal rights for all members of society, social inclusion. And proficient actionability, for example, managing political crises, supply problems, pandemics. The second need or motive is the motive for autonomy. By granting the citizens freedom of decision and action, freedom of travel, and free and fair elections, the state can strengthen the bond. The citizens need to know their possibilities and how to implement them without fearing repressions and embarrassing themselves. The third need or the motive for competence, all presenters want to develop, practice, expand, and improve their skills. And that is true through the whole life span of men and other beings. By observing human behavior throughout the whole lifespan, a consistent motivation can be observed to develop, practice, and expand their own skills in areas important to them. People want to prove their skills to themselves. This way confidence, self-confidence and self-efficacy is developed. They expect acknowledgement from the people around them. They want to utilize the skills to their own advantage, and if society cohesion exists, they want to utilize their skills for the good of the society too. The state can encourage identification of the citizens and societal cohesion by creating the requirements for the citizens to develop, expand, demonstrate, and utilize their skills for the collective benefit. Recently, human needs as preconditions for cohesion. The rate of cohesion in a community depends on the opportunity to satisfy important basic and psychological needs in society. And then basic needs ensuring survival, awareness of affiliation and participation, autonomy is a maximum freedom of action and growing competence.
I guess we could pause here now, because I would love to come back to you with some specific questions,
Yes.
if you don't mind, and we could elaborate more throughout the Q&A too. Thank you so much. It's a great framework, theoretical vision and theoretical framework on how do we think about societal cohesion and how we think about societal role in building something that looks like a system, that could resist to external shocks and stressors and could ideally recover after attacks. So with that, I would love to move to Her Excellency Ambassador Andrew Pierre, who is a career diplomat focused on Eastern Europe, Russia, Central Asia, Black Sea region, all of the keywords that we have been discussing here today. And I would love to ask him for a short introduction about the concept of resilience. Define the concept of resilience and tell us more. How does he think the European Union has applied those concepts of resilience throughout this coronavirus crisis? Perhaps 1 or 2 minutes, and then we could exchange more with the short questions.
Please, could you repeat the question? How do you find? It was an acoustic problem for me.
Oh, I'm asking Andrew Pierre, Ambassador Andrew Pierre, if he can hear me. Okay, then I'll move to Lieutenant General Dr. Florian Coldea, who's a senior official at the Romanian Intelligence Service, but also one of the most knowledgeable persons in the security field when it comes to Black Sea, but beyond European security, Euro-Atlantic security. He's got an extensive background in the topic of resilience, and I would love to ask him if he can hear me now. I saw him on the screen. How do you, Lieutenant General, define resilience when it comes to your own experience managing some of the toughest affairs on behalf of Romania? How's the resilience work for Romania, and how do you think we could make that work for the countries like Georgia?
First of all, thank you very much, and I hope that you hear me well, because I have very bad internet connection, even if I'm in Western Europe, where suppose that everything works fine and it's good. That's not exactly like people say all the time. First, I want to congratulate all those who make possible this conference and all those who have a contribution to this very important topic in nowadays world and in nowadays circumstances, especially for that part of Europe and for that region, especially. We, as a former communist country, witnessed and we were confronted with a lot of problems and with a lot of, how should I say, sensitive issues in our difficult way from communist regime, very dark communist regime, to full member of NATO and EU, passing through difficult transformations, radical reforms, and everything what I saw now in the region, in your country. For this reason, I try a little bit to say few aspects for what I noticed as a practitioner in my former capacity as the first deputy director in charge of the operation of one of the largest security services in Europe for more than a decade, and which I witnessed a lot of problem and a lot of aspects, and in a confrontational also field with big actor like Russia. As you probably all know, Romania hosts the most important missile defense shield, as hosting American troops, and also NATO Human Center and Center of Resilience, Center of Resilience of the level of NATO excellence. And in this respect, I think that our lessons and our experience might be useful, at least for the host, but also for others, in the sense that to avoid our mistakes, and separately to make it successful, but to avoid the mistakes might be very helpful in the very beginning. I'd like to put here and to summarize in my presentation one important aspect to underline the importance of security culture as one of the main factors in building resilience, especially in these countries, in the former USSR. We all should remember the former KGB and the services play a driving role in that society. People are still haunted by these phantoms, by these ghosts from the past, saying that everything is linked with the services. In that respect, what I try to say that how important is to make a big reform in that of the security and of the military dimension of the state, and to use this education of security as a precondition to understand building resilience in the field of security and defense, especially in nowadays world, especially in the region. That's the very important thing what I try to underline, and this is the main idea of my presentation from many lessons. What I don't know if you see it on the screen. I don't have any feedback because it doesn't work well to me here.
We do. I think you could do a quick, sliding of it as quickly as you can move on. I would love to ask some follow-up questions on that.
Okay. Just in the beginning, the former state communists have a common past, many common traits, and I dare say a common future. Their future, and particularly that of their intelligence, is based on democratization, on providing security while regarding the hearts and minds of their native population, as well as the confidence of other democratic partners. Those were difficult processes for all states in the region, and Romania made no exception, as I can try to emphasize here. Yeah. Just inspirational, to be inspirational a little bit, it's important for what we try to say that power springs up among men when they act together. The problem is how we will do and how we will influence them to make together. And my predecessor here in the presentation says coherency and the cohesion at the state level. That's very important and remain a key point for specialists to say. Yeah. As a Romanian lesson, speaking about reform of the and increase the resilience, we were talking about changing and making a huge effort to really reform military and security sector. It was based on the NATO pre-accession, based on the American privilege partnership. We succeed to enhance the standards and democratic values at the level of services and the level of the military. EU and NATO help us a lot to find minimum required standards, and being part of the NATO and EU later on as a border state, the longest pedestrian border of NATO and EU, and is with inhabitants and is with Ukraine, not like in Finland, with the polar bears maybe, and with the big territory. Here, it was much more complicated. Later on, we found gradual positive changes, but you have to be patient and you have to pay some time to very, very complicated times. Yeah. I'm witness of positive change to all my different capacity of the building of smart, resilient state. But that was, as I told, very, very difficult. Yeah. What we saw, it's a very complicated inheritance for services, as all the region are confronted with, and we were confronted with significant mistrust from policymakers, civil society, and potential partners in the very beginning. That was not easy at all to pass through that time. Yeah. Well, how we succeed and what was the moment when these really things changed, it was Romania's post 9/11 action. It when they really start to act coherent, strengthen defense capacity against this terrorist threat, solid legal framework projecting regional security, helping secure other states, and we were not confronted with strategic surprise. We are one of the very few countries passing through this terrible phenomenon, terrorism, very dangerous, without being affected. Even we deployed a major role in international cooperation, having troops abroad in Muslim countries, being high on the list of different terrorist organizations, but Romania did well in this respect, but it was not by chance, but by coherency of the measures, by good discussions and trustful discussions among services and policymakers and civilian society in order to succeed. Yeah. Speaking the problem which we were confronted, I was meeting many years ago with the director Efraim Halevi of Mossad, and I really was impressed by what he put in his memoirs. The first was the crisis of trust between the political class and the agency. I was about to run. The second was a crisis of trust between Mossad and the citizens. And the third was a crisis within the Mossad itself, a resultant of the damages to the trust and self-esteem of those serving the agency. That's what we were confronted with. These words are, I really witnessed this in our country in the beginning, and it was so difficult to make it pass through. What we were trying hard is to definitely find a way to enhance the trust of population in the democratic fundamental institution was painful and complicated reforms both for security agencies, decision makers, and civil society. Definitely, that was the biggest complication with the decision makers. They definitely need for enhance the resilient security culture for policymakers. Even if it's complicated, they don't have time, they have frequent changes, we were confronted with traumatic past. Definitely, we should do more and better to enhance the communication with them, to have a training session or roundtable discussion in which they to understand the equation of security. Yeah. They pay decision makers, especially strategic management or intelligence, play a crucial role in that. I put here. It's very important, this sensitive relation, even in consolidated democracy between decision makers and services, still very sensitive, it has to be managed. I put here a lot of aspects about that and how the dialogue might be better.
Internet issues. It's fine. We'll come back to the general. Great presentation, in fact, a great beginning and continuation. Hopefully we'll be able to get some more juice from the presentation now. Our fellow Georgian connecting from California. Oh,
sorry, it was bad connection. I didn't hear anything you said, sorry, for my connection.
We lost you generally for a second there, and you were talking about the decision makers. And if you could wrap up with one or two presentations, then would be great to explore the rest throughout the Q&A and some of the short questions that I prepared for you.
Thank you. just to summarize, education of security remains the key point in enhancing coherency about the problem related with defense and security among all the actors in the society. Decision makers, services, civil society. Thank you very much. This is Romanian experience.
Thank you so much, General. Great framework, great lessons shared from your experience and from Romania's experience in terms of accessing the Euro-Atlantic institutions and tying it to the 9/11 United States institutional support. A lot of geopolitics, a lot of security there. Good lessons to be learned. We'll dive into that momentarily. I'll just move to Mindia Gabichwadze, who is now working on comprehensive mental health clinic at Maiden's Health back in California, and he has quite extensively worked on the behavioral aspect, psychological aspect of resilience. And before anything, I would love to do this quick Q&A with him and ask to define resilience for me in a nutshell. What is resilience when you're looking at a human being? Before we move into institutions, we talked about security, we talked about politics and geopolitics and arms and weapons and everything, but what is resilient? What is a resilient person to you, if you don't mind sharing your own perspective? You may be muted. I cannot hear you. Sporadic? No, now you're muted. I think we could.
Can you hear me now?
It's perfect.
Can you
Go on.
Okay. So sorry about that. So good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, or of course, good morning from LA. So first, I just want to take this opportunity and thank University of Georgia. Thank you for your trust and confidence. Speaking of resilience right now, because of time difference, trust me, I'm employing every behavior, every thought, and every action associated with resilience to stay with you because of time difference. So I'm incorporating all my resilience training right now to continue this. And so if I could take the brief moment, as everyone watched this conference, that as many distinguished panelists before me already described and expressed and shared their experience, there are many definitions, concepts, and theories of resilience. So I want to take a moment. I'm not a politician. I'm not a policymaker. I am just a clinical psychologist. So I want to spend a few moments to address how resilience has been defined in psychological research. But however, we can all agree in something, that this topic of resilience seems to provide very solid foundation for educating the public, and educating public, and which brings the psychological health, physical health, and psychological health. So to operationally define resilience is a very, very difficult process. And here's why: two aspects, right? Because when we're researching in psychology, resilience, every researcher incorporates different methods and does their testing differently. Some look at the resilience as process, while others look as an outcome. So what I'm trying to do as psychologists, we have tendency to complicate the process and not give the defined final answer. So there is no one single answer. There is no one applicable definition, right? But what will diverts to, I will defer to how American Psychological Association defined resilience, right? So based on their research and based on their findings, they define this is a process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threat, or significant sources of stress. So APA pretty much went further than that, and then they elaborated by stating that becoming more resilient not only helps you to get through difficult situations, difficult circumstances, but it also empowers you to grow and even improves your life along the whole way. Good news is that while we're looking and comparing all these different researches, we identified two main concepts: adversity and positive adaptation. So this seems to be a process when it comes to resilience. And the question becomes mostly, how do we define adversity and how do we define the positive adaptation? So positive adaptation is pretty much the psychological system of coping skills. And we as a people employ them to address and to meet the demands of traumatic event or any kind of adversity when it comes. Also, I don't want to forget one extremely important thing, because we also, the panelists before us, addressed trauma. Trauma was used on a continuously today, and I want to make sure that we address the distinction between resilience and post-traumatic growth. The resilience, even though quite often we use these two concepts interchangeably, it is important to address that resilience is the process of adapting in the face of tragedy, whereas post-traumatic growth refers more to positive changes experienced as a result of adversity in life. So it's a good concept to understand, and specifically nowadays, as we're listening to where the world is and how we're dealing politically, and we also are facing most kind of devastating pandemic that our generation or generation before has ever experienced. So as a psychologist, what is our role to aid society to become more resilient in face of challenges, and what we need to do, and what the research and what my experience has shown me, that we as psychologists should be uniquely well-equipped and qualified to help guide individuals as they travel along their own personal road of resilience. And what I want to address, that as we are facing these difficulties, pretty much all of us are in this very difficult place, that we're constantly in the sense that there is another shoe is about to drop. Specifically now, what Ukraine is going through and what the global politics, the state of global politics. So the Georgia and Georgian people have shown historically the confidence and in their determination, right? So we kind of have a historical experience of resilience, and we always have bounced back if we're looking at our history. So
I would love to follow up there super quickly, and that is sometimes people define, at least among 1,000 other definitions, resiliency as a condition where we recover, or a system, or a security, or a human being recovers from a shock and stays the same. Do you define resilience, since you're talking about some of the historical analogies, to define resilience as a system that recovers at best itself, stays the same, or recovers and improves as a result of an attack?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, right? Through resilience, we recover and we learn from the process. It improves it allows us to grow. And it gives us the chance to be prepared and bounce back emotional and physical the trauma or adversity we're experiencing.
Thank you. Since we're limiting our reserve currency, which is time, I will come back to you with one or two more quick questions. And I see we're joined by Her Excellency Ambassador Andrew Peer. He was ambassador to Moldova, of France, and he had several high-level appointments on behalf of, as part of the diplomatic mission, including the chairman of the co-chairman of the Minsk group on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and also a career diplomat and a knowledgeable, highly knowledgeable person when it comes to Eastern Europe, Russia, Central Asia, Black Sea security. And I would love to ask the first question. Ambassador, thank you for joining. I would love to hear from you in a sentence or two, how do you approach the notion of resilience, and we'd love to explore in a bit about the European Union's approach to practicing resilience in its own policies as we speak.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, to invite me in this very interesting panel. You know that France has taken the French presidency for 6 months, and that is an important moment, especially now when Europe and the world is before a lot of defeat, a lot of problems in all kinds. The sanitary crisis, in particular, reminded Europe of its vulnerabilities in its economic models, notably its dependency on limited sets of suppliers, especially for energy. It is above all important for the EU to diversify its supply of energetical import, especially of oil and gas, and it's particularly important now. And of pharmaceutical ingredients. We should draw the lessons from the crisis and prepare the strategy to the longer term for the protection of European citizens and business from external threats and shocks. These problems concern also the strengthening of the Union strategic autonomy and resilience, in particular in the fields of health, of the security or digital. But the resilience is also important in the Eastern Partnership policy. Almost all of the 6 partners countries are subject of territorial disputes and occupation of the parts of their territories. Resilience has become the base of the 5 goals in the partnership beyond 2020 document, which in particular says resilient, sustainable and inclusive economies, accountable institutions, rule of law and security, environmental and climate resilience, resilient digital transformation, resilient, just and inclusive societies. That is sort of introduction I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great continuation of the topic of resilience when it comes to European Union's approach, policy, political, institutional approach. And what a nice transition to someone who I have here in person, who has spent a lot of time at the European Parliament, European institutions, drafting policies, helping craft some of the initiatives, legislative ideas for advocacy, for adaptation, and so on and so forth. Tamar Gugulashvili. I had a chance to have a lunch with Tamar today, and she is interested in exploring some of the European Union's own approach to exercising of resilience throughout the COVID-19, but also malign interference, malign influence coming from the outside towards the European Union, towards the European institution. In a nutshell, Tamar, I would love to ask, what's resilience to you, and how do you think resilience was effective or less effective when it comes to European Union's own defense towards malign influence?
Yes, thank you. I can say that with the conclusions European Parliament just published a week ago, after 1 year of deliberation in the special committee on foreign interference in the European Union and its democratic processes, the conclusion, I very much agree The conclusion is that the European Union is lacking, coherent approach and multi-sectorial approach or strategy to be resilient and to fight back when it comes to the foreign interference. And European Union is aware, the European Parliament is aware about all the challenges we face, and that's why during the pandemic, in the autumn of 2020, European Parliament created a special committee, parliamentary committee on foreign interference, and this committee worked for 1 year, and just a weeks ago finalized its comprehensive report that will be adopted. It's already adopted by the committee, but will be adopted now by the European Parliament as a resolution. And this resolution is quite comprehensive, and the conclusion is that European Union has many policies, many policy tools, but it lacks a comprehensive approach to be resilient. And then this committee organized many hearings with the experts on different domain, and found that, for example, we have many problems and weaknesses. For example, for the online platforms, that you see that online platforms are the main tool that Russia or China or other foreign powers they use to influence societies in the European Union. We found that, for example, when it comes to English language content, then online platforms like Facebook, like YouTube, and others, they know how to fight, how to delete, or how to block. But when it comes on the same content in French, in German, in Romanian, or even in Bulgarian, then online platforms are not so effective, and it takes lots of time to realize that there is a disinformation action. When it comes to the political party financing, we have a huge problem. We know not only political parties present at the European Parliament, but also political parties on the national level. You have 27 member states, and then you have lots of political parties in all countries. Then you see how, for example, Russia finances extreme right parties, or even historically linked extreme left parties. And sometimes, and very often, it is legal. The ways Russia uses, for example, to finance the parties, these are legal ways. Then we also, found that we have a huge problem on university financing, and also cultural or cultural centers that Russia opens, or even China opens in the European Union countries. We have many universities that are controlled now by Russia or its enterprises. We have also European Union elite, former ministers or former prime ministers who now work for the Russian corporations, and the European Union has, regulation that regulates, for example, for the high-ranking officials, ethic behavior. For example, if you leave commissioner post, then you have 2 years to not to work for the private sector or for the other companies. But we lack a comprehensive approach. All the existing regulations are not adapted with today's challenges. So what I wanted to conclude also is that, for example, with the hearings we organized, we found that in the very last years, Russia and China spent $300 million to interfere in the electoral processes in the European Union. And this is what we could count. I mean, it is maybe very small part of the interference, but for us it is important now that the European Union makes new regulations, for example, updates its regulation on political party financing, but creates a new regulation about, protection of strategic and critical infrastructure. And in that category, we don't only put, energetical infrastructure, but also media, also education sector, for example, universities and other, strategic sectors, and we also very much insist on electoral infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you. Tying to the European policies and political affairs, some of the legal vulnerabilities that we may be facing, some of the policy choices to be taken, and some of the challenges that would be associated in terms of adopting it, but also operationalizing it, right? One is adopting, the other is making a practice, making it a part of our lives. I will shoot one quick round of questions, and after that, I would love to ask you, dear audience, to prepare questions, Gia or anyone else who may have questions to any of our panelists, not to me. So my question is now about the challenges, some of the challenges that we as a Europe change, and that could include countries, since we're talking about from a non-EU member, Georgia now, I would be interested in hearing from you, for instance, from General Caldera, if he's with us, I do see his name, to tell us, UN in the military domain, I do see him, don't I see him? I don't. That's fine. Then I'll go to Dr. Preiser with the same question. What are some of the critical challenges, some of the common, I would say, that European countries, in your observation, are facing in terms of building their own resilient systems in security, in societal resilience that impacts their gross preparedness in the field? And I intend this round of question to be super short ones, if you don't mind, so that we allow more time for the audience interaction. Doctor?
In Germany, there are problems with solidarity because of the strengths of the right people that take many efforts to take anti-corona emotions to divide the people, the citizens, in protest actions.
Mm-hmm.
And one problem of the occurrence of this problem is missing trust in the action of the government. In the first month of the corona epidemic, there were different and changing politics, and that was a failure, and that gave a failure to the trust of the government, to the government.
Thank you. Thank you so much. With the same question, I would move to General Caldera, observing the evolution and adaptation of the concept of resilience in Romania, but also in the neighborhood across Europe. Are there any common patterns that you have seen in terms of challenges that various European countries have experienced or are experiencing that could be improved? I think you're muted, General.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. It's a very interesting question. The problem is, as in my opinion, that these differ from country to country, from society to society, based on many aspects, based on many things, including cultural pattern. We are very emotional being part of the Latin, with the Latin roots. And especially in Balkanic Peninsula, you can find the same way of thinking, where conspiracies and theories are actually immediately found ground. In this respect, we should be very innovative in finding a way to counterbalance all these aspects. Especially, it will be very demanding, not only for services, but also for politicians and for academic level, in order to find a way to enhance the coherency and to enhance the resilience capacity. That's the idea. It's not one recipe solution for all. It's one aspect. Second, we must find a way and must put together people at the same table in practitioner, academic level, in order to find the best way to have best impact in order to enhance our capacities. Cannot be done by default, cannot be done just like this. It's a process, it's step by step, and people should understand this. It's not something which you wish and that's it. And one day it might happen. Thank you very much.
Of course, General Koldea mentioned a very important thing, which is cross-functional, cross-agency, cross-institutional collaboration and need for academia, public, private, multinational. When we're talking about Europe writ large, quite tough. Aspirationally, it's quite a fancy term to build resilience, but when it comes to really actioning those recommendations which are written in great reports, it becomes tougher and tougher. I'll come back to media and ask him. You've been in the United States. You come from Georgia. You could, in my assessment, objectively assess differences between someone in Europe, someone in the United States. Do you consider an American and a European as a human being somehow differently vulnerable to the same threat? Is there any patterns, any findings that you would share? If there's none, that's still a finding.
No, yeah, it's a plethora of research, right? When it comes to specifically how do we develop and to develop the resilience, and to piggyback on General's comments right now, this is one of the things is that resilience is a process, and there is no one way to understand, and there is no one size fits all. And specifically, the culture is one of the components, and it's extremely important to understand, because that from a psychological perspective, that in order to become resilient, right, you need to ask for help. You need to build that community around you. And if we take the cultural component of the Georgians, specifically when it comes to mental health and when it comes to psychological aspect, it's very stigmatized. We're stigmatized to ask for help and ask to talk emotional aspect. And what we need to probably understand that there is a range of behaviors, thoughts, and actions found to be associated with resilience. And the 4 key factors, what my experience in my research has shown me, and also being born and raised in Georgia and living in the United States for the last 30 years, it's that I understood that 4 key factors for resilience is the connection, wellness, and that includes the physical wellness and also psychological wellness, meaning of life, and also the healthy thinking process. So it's just like, how do we build that? How do we make, and it's again, to quote former First Lady, it takes a village to raise a child, right? It takes a village to get the community to become resilient, and it has to start the combination of government. Government should provide community-based opportunities, and that individuals should have environmental and personal resources to develop this resilience. And it's a long process, but it can be done. It can be done, and anyone can learn.
Anybody engaged in the topic of resilience, if there's any student, you will be employed for a long time if you go on exploring the topic, because it's a multi-year, if lifelong, I would say, a task to deal with. And I guess as stressors and external shocks and malign influencers grow in number and grow in intensity, I think the topic will only grow in relevance. And final question from me, and then please, the audience, line up your questions if you have any. I'm sure you do. To Ambassador Pierre, how does, in your opinion, France as a country exercise the notion of resilience? Because we know at least one case, when the Russians tried to interfere in the elections, but whatever is publicly known, France managed pretty much the disinformation campaign that was coming to aim swaying the results of the elections, previous presidential at least.
Yes, it is exactly the point I would like to speak about, exactly the disinformation and the willingness in France and Europe to enhance our capacity and possibility to fight with the disinformation coming from outside, through cyber attacks and through, especially in the internet. And this disinformation is unfortunately very much spread in the population now, and especially through the conspiracy sites, etc. I think it could touch a lot of topics. The health, I don't know, the health, the conflict, different conflicts, etc. And of course, the French government, other EU governments try to make the best to fight against them, and that is also one of the most important point and priority of the EU, proclaimed especially and reaffirmed by the French presidency, to combat and fight against disinformation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't want to monopolize this floor. Any questions? Kote? Please. Kote Yuseliani, University of Georgia.
Thank you, Zuyad, and thanks for our speakers. It was really interesting to listen to you. And my question goes to Mr. Mindiaga Bichwaya. As Zuyad, you mentioned how it is when people sort of recover. Do they go back to the same status as they used to feel or be while they discover that they have problems and they have to take care of their problems? And when they go back, how close they are to that point when they felt themselves normal? When it comes to resilience, what's also the flow of false information and what we discussed during the second panel? How does it correlate with the recovering process? And is it just a personal, or it applies to wider groups or to a whole nation at the same point?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for a great question. So I'm going to break down to a couple components you asked. So one of the things that what I learned and what I want to emphasize is that resilience is understood to be fostered by both environmental and genetic factors as well. So that's why when the general mentioned about culture comes from the environmental component and also genetical factors, right? So, but the thing we need to talk, and we need to probably from the clinical perspective, and I'm only going to talk from the clinical perspective, that doing that understanding the resilience is a process. So there are days when one might lose that battle of bouncing back, but on other days one could emerge glorious over adversity or any kind of trauma they are experiencing. So what the work process looks like is that pretty much from the clinical perspective is the final result what matters. It's almost that to extend there are a lot of military personnel here, so I'm gonna kind of try to use some of the military language, but it's resilience is also an outcome. It's losing the battle but winning the war. So that's the pretty much process going on from psychological perspective. And the steps to develop, yeah, we might bounce back at times, but we might fall as well. So it's this work process.
Thank you, Medea. It also partially covered the question of our friend, Dr. Lashet Zebishashvili, who was asking pretty much something similar. Lashet Zebishashvili, professor and head of the IR, who could not be with us. He's one of the organizers of today's event, but for objective reasons, he could not join us. He's got questions to General Goldea, and the question follows like this. As you know, it's very difficult for postmodern, post-industrial countries to refer to patriotism as the major source of mass mobilization. So if the concept of patriotism or even nationalism is excluded from the available tools of toolbox, when we're talking about the resilience, what other concepts or mechanisms can successfully be applied to achieve higher level of emotional, psychological response to a particular threat? Hopefully I was able to formulate the question to you succinctly. General?
Only a second, because bad connections. Only a second, because the role of patriotism in this counter these threats. Sorry.
Yes, Dr. Zebishashvili is asking if we exclude patriotism for the toolbox in terms of mobilizing the societies and communities, what are the other components that could unite them?
No, definitely patriotism cannot be excluded from the efforts done at the state level. And as it was mentioned earlier, it should be mixed with all other ingredients for national effort and national strategy, but in the line with international efforts and with international partners' effort in order to have a coherent action at the national and international level. Patriotism still, especially in the area of security and defense, remain an important key aspect of efforts, which has to be constantly maintained. It's not this way. It's not something which has to be ignored, but on contrary, has to play around this a very, very good thing. We are in NATO, we are in EU, but we still remain Romanians, Europeans, and Euro-Atlanticists. But Romania is important and play patriotism a major role in all. But Romania as a NATO, not Romania per se, as many other nationalists think, but Romania as a member of NATO and EU. We have to love them as we are now.
Talking about, thank you, individual national identities in terms of making, forming unity as a Europe, as a European Union, as NATO. It's an important data point out there. I'm coming back to my Georgian colleague here, asking what are some of the lessons that we could glean, Georgians here sitting in Tbilisi. We're talking about resilience. Dinner time is approaching. We got 7 more minutes to go. In 3 minutes, I will exploit and summarize this exciting conversation. What are some of the things that you think, being Georgian, but also being Georgian who works at the European institutions, could learn from 1 or 2 European countries or the European Union as an institution?
Yes, I would definitely agree with General Caldea that patriotism has to be, the main pillar. But I think that Georgians, we can also learn another lesson that the European Union is learning itself today. It's that with the COVID pandemic.
Or do you think Georgia could teach something back? Is there anything like that?
Yes, I pretty much I'm sure that we can, give some lessons. I saw many European friends or colleagues afraid when the pandemic started, and I said I thought that I was much more resilient because I remember how the Soviet Union, collapsed and we survived. We were resilient. So I can assure you that
You're very resilient, and you find yourself resilient, perhaps. You didn't know? Did you know?
More resilient, yeah, than my colleagues who are French mainly. And I can say that we can teach lots of things, but I think that we can also take lessons the European Union is driving now from the pandemic. It's all the disinformation campaign, etc., on the pandemic, anti-vax movement, etc. They found, solid ground on the fact that European institutions or European governments sometimes they are not so transparent. So if you ensure transparency, then confidence of your public is greater. So now the European Union is like driving lessons, and we will also produce lots of other committees and documents, resolutions, etc., policies. But the main thing that is really to be ensured is that with the crisis like this, you should ensure more transparency of your policies. Then people adhere, to your policy. If you are hiding something, if you are, have some scandals about, your text messages to the Pfizer CEO, then that's sure that it doesn't help because it gives ground to the, interference power to build on that, complotist theories, and it is captivating, European or even Georgian public. So I would advise to put also our emphasis on the transparency.
Lessons and observations, and we're wrapping up in a couple of minutes, but I'll come back to Dr. Preiser. A quick question, which is from research and practice, what are some of the lessons that Germany or any European country could export outside in terms of making them more resilient, if there is any? You may be muted, Doctor.
I have an acoustic problem. Could you repeat?
Well, of course, as many times as you want. Gleaning lessons from the research and analysis, what are some of the lessons that you think could be applied beneficial to other European countries, societies, governments? Those lessons could come from Germany or any other European government, if there's any, in your observation, that come to mind.
I think the research on the motive and general needs of people, and the research of conditions of political participation, and the motives to be active in a society is not only true to Germany, but there are similar results of US and other countries. I think also experiences with participation and the trend to the preconditions for participation are perhaps universal.
Thank you. Thank you. The same question for a 30-second reflection, perhaps to Ambassador Pierre. Any lessons that we could learn from France, Ambassador?
I would like.
Yeah, we can hear you now. I think you're muted, Ambassador.
Okay. I would like to come back to what Mr. Kozia told about patriotism. I agree very much with that. For me, but I think patriotism is valuable for all the countries in the world. Patriotism must be distinct from nationalism. That's very important. Nationalism is aggressiveness, etc. Patriotism is pride and defense. That's important to have in mind. And of course, the resilience must reinforce the patriotism.
Thank you.
And that is very noble idea.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm trying to hurry to wrap this up. Finally, coming back to our Georgian colleague, any universal ideas, any great ideas that could be applicable in terms of studying human behavior? Do you think that when it comes to resilience, human behavior is explored enough? I'm not touching in deeper levels, explored enough that would make states aware of their own citizens so that they can plan better, build better systems. What's your take on that, India?
Not necessarily. I wish it was. I wish I had a very direct answer to you. But what I want to take this opportunity as you give me this last couple of minutes, just to address the mental health clinicians or anybody in the social services in Georgia, and the importance to using resilience as a bridge to our community has proven to be very valuable. Not only that information about building resilience allows psychologists or mental health clinicians or social service employees to help their community, it also helps community to understand the value of psychology. So to a certain degree that the stigma I mentioned earlier starts to break down, and it allows us to do a little more research and allows us to understand and listen better what is needed to be done.
Thank you so much. Every great thing should end at some point, and this panel is one of them. Thank you, dear panelists, dear distinguished guests. It was an honor to moderate this discussion with you. One colleague here in person, others joining from across the world, Europe and the United States. It's been a pleasure to be with you. It's been a pleasure to talk about resilience, many aspects, starting from cognitive, going into different aspects of cognitive, then going into security, going into academia, how the academia sees, how academia approaches, how it examines, and what we could learn. French lessons, German lessons, Romanian lessons, security lessons, and Georgian lessons, European Union observations. Hopefully this will help us, or those policymakers who are watching now, who are sitting in the room, build their own systems, country systems, Georgians or beyond, that would make our institutions, our processes more robust, more clear and understandable, and hopefully more effective and more resilient. As we grow, as threats grow, the good thing would be, as threats grow, our systems to grow faster than the threats. At that point, I guess, we'd be in a different and better shoes than we're today. Thanks to the University of Georgia. This is the end of the show today. I wish you best of luck. It's been a pleasure, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, the conference was a very good idea.
To say a few words before we say goodbye to each other, and as moderator of first two panels, I would like to emphasize the conference and the major ideas that were collected here from our distinguished guests and speakers. And first, we found out that without a national unity and without a national understanding of the need of real resilience, it is impossible to reach any sort of success. And as General Hodges said, and I totally agree with him, the main point is to rise up the trust between the society and the rest of the major actors. It can be government, it can be media, it can be political parties, or big private businesses, those who are operating on the field, they have to build the trust among each other, and trust coming from the society, which in the end creates the resilient society, country, or whatever model can be applicable in this term. Anything that could be that needs to be resilient can be built up on these. That not only turtles are confronted by the bad news and not reliable news and not reliable information, but total nations, whole nations are the targets which are suffering out of this. And Georgia is one of the good examples how we contradict this with no success, I would say, because starting from coronavirus, finishing towards Russian aggression, major political parties or major players in Georgia now are arguing Russia is good actor or bad, and whether Russia invaded Georgia or who started the war, while we are having the ongoing situation in Ukraine. And this all comes from the disinformation and all those means that are used by the current major actors who are using cyber and information capabilities well effectively for their own interests. And we have to say that the last panel was extremely interesting, because we found out that everything has to be started from the grassroots, I would say, because from very individuals, then we come to the social groups, and then we come to the cities, countries, and this is the basis that makes and creates resilience. I don't remember who said that, but I think it is a Chinese wisdom that knowing others is intelligence and knowing yourself is wisdom. So that's what actually on today's conference, and Georgia is the least resilient country, unfortunately. And I have the right to say that because I'm Georgian and I know very well what is going on here. So as a country, we have to reconsider our approach about the resilience policy, how our partners see us, and all the recommendations that were proposed by our speakers. I hope that it will be translated into the state agencies as not as a doctrine, but as a sort of guideline that they have to follow. And in the end, I would like to thank all of you who have been participating in our conference, all our guests and all our speakers at the same time. Of course, the leadership of university is the creator of this conference, which was really very interesting and very useful and very timely. And I want especially to thank Ninutsa, Salome, and Tinatin, who made this day work technically and not only technically but also practically very successful. Our technical staff, I would like to thank them, and thank all of you for making this event be so successful. Now I can officially say that our conference is over, and congratulate ourselves and you as well to have this opportunity to meet each other and change our knowledge and experience in those terms that we have discussed here today. Thank you very much again.